How you doing? How you doing? And how you doing, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Petty, and I appreciate you stopping by today. And this is our second attempt at recording this video. We got about 15 minutes into the first recording, and the computer blue screened on us, so we lost that. So we're here for round number 2. Gonna try to give it the same zeal we had before. And yeah, we're still just struggle busting out here with this PC that we're using. It's on a little bit of the rough side, but it works well enough for us to go in and take a look at things. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna take a look at my man Dr. Strange, and we're specifically taking a look at some PvP builds for him. So we're gonna touch on a 1v1 PvP build, so something for like the dimensional arena. Then we're gonna have a low level build for Omega Wars, and then we're gonna have a almost support build that you can also use in Omega Wars. Definitely wouldn't use that in the 1v1 PvP because you're going to have a bad time. But before we get into all those, if you guys want to show the channel any bit of love, it would really be appreciated. The algorithm is a mean, cruel mistress, and it's judgy. It's judgy on the level of like, oh, how long does it take for someone to comment on your video after they started watching? Like, what? Why would that matter? Wouldn't you want them to watch the whole thing and then leave a comment? No, you grade that worse? Why, YouTube? Why? So, that's what we're dealing with out here. So, any love you guys can show the channel, hitting a like, leaving a comment, hitting that subscribe button. Any of that stuff is really big, and it is very appreciated. So, let's go ahead and talk about our boy, Dr. Strange. So, first things first, before we even get into the individual builds themselves, there's a move I want to touch on real fast, because it is the most busted thing in Doctor Strange's kit, and arguably makes him a counter to one of the strongest PvP characters in the game, Spider-Man. And Spider-Man's pretty mean. He can be pretty nasty. He can lock you down with webs to the point to where you almost are CC'd the entire time. It can be very frustrating, especially if you don't out damage the Spider-Man by a substantial amount. If you're doing way more DPS than him, you can still down him in between the times that you're stunned, but that's going to be a little bit of frustrating gameplay for you. And if he has, equal to you in damage, you're going to lose that fight. So that's what makes this skill so strong. Real quick, let's actually just touch on what it does. So first part of it, create a spell disc of protection to send enemies nearby enemies floating mid-air. So anything within this circle gonna get knocked up in the air. Secondly, it then removes all debuffs from himself and allies. And thirdly, blocks debuffs for a short duration. So a lot of things happening there. We've got a little bit of CC, just a baby bit of CC with this knockup. Then we're removing all debuffs from ourselves and any of our buddies around us. And then we're blocking future debuffs for about 12 seconds. So that's incredibly strong. That's one of the strongest things in this man's entire arsenal when it comes to PvP. So I just want to make sure we're putting the right emphasis on it, because this is very strong. And with the amount of damage that this man can do, being able to be immune from CCs is insane. Is absolutely insane. So I think Doctor Strange is going to be very dangerous in PvP with this move alone. But let's go ahead and get into the rest of the build. So very first one, and again, just to remind you guys, the first one we're looking at is the 1v1, so for like Dimensional Rift. First spell, I'm gonna throw you guys for a little bit of a loop. You can do two things. You can either go with this one, where it's another type of buff, and this one is specifically increasing the defensive pierce rate. Basically, it just means that you're doing more damage and everything. You're going through more of their defenses and ignoring that and getting more damage on. So you can potentially go with that. Pairs real nicely with the second skill, which is the third version of 7 Rings. And this one, if you remember from our other video, does a gross amount of damage. Does a lot of damage. So setting that up with this to get even more damage on this, it can burn people's health and make them a little scared real fast. The other thing, that if you're going for a much burstier build, you can potentially go with this version of the spell, where it has not only a decent amount of damage on it, it'll hit them for a nice little chunk, but it also has really, really high guard break. The highest, in fact. That can be very, very useful because if you bring a couple of moves like this into a fight and you're able to break enemies' armor more than they're able to break your armor, you're going to have a nice little window with just bullying them a little bit. So it's a strong toss-up. You can either go with the buff here, or you can go with the skill that hurts a decent bit. Not as much as the other one, but it hurts, and lots of guard break. So that's nice. Second skill we already touched on a little bit. Doesn't really have any guard break on it, but again, the amount of damage that does is just it's very quick. It'll track to wherever your target is. They're not going to be able to fly out of this one. There's a lot of reasons that this is a very, very nice skill for PvP. Next one on the build is going to be Mirror Dimension in the second version of it. So this one creates a giant area of effect and stun locks everything inside of it. And if they're still inside of it when it bursts, it then does damage to them as well. So reason that I like this is A, because it has such a wide area that it's affecting, and the fact that it's a CC makes it very, very strong. I would argue it's stronger when you're fighting many different people instead of just 1v1, but having a CC like this could be exactly what you need to be able to create an opening for yourself to turn the tide of a fight. So that is the reason it's on this list. One of the best stuns that this guy has. It's nice. We like this one. We like this one a lot. Next skill we've already touched on and everything. That is the one that knocks people up, removes debuffs, and then plays block debuffs for 12 seconds. So that's pretty good. Next skill that I have on this build, and this will take a little bit of explaining, is Eldritch Sword with the third mastery, Bladed Defense. Reason that I like this so very much is it A, does a decent amount of damage. Held up two fingers there for a second. A, does a decent amount of damage. And B, you can't really tell by looking at the 21-second cooldown, but this skill lasts for a good while. Like by the time those blades are done spinning, you have maybe 6 to 7 seconds before it's off cooldown again. So it has a very, very high uptime. Also, it helps create space. So if someone is insistent on being, jumping in your face and beating on you, this is going to put a little damage on them. If they recognize the skill, know that it does a decent amount of damage, and they want to avoid that and they start trying to get away from you, if you need a little bit of time yourself, maybe a couple of skills are on cooldown and you need like 3 or 4 seconds so those are back up and you can re-engage with your best combo. Yeah, all you have to do is as soon as they start moving back from you popping this is fly in the other direction, and bam, you've got all the space you need to get your setup back and come back into the fight. And it just does nice damage. And people will usually be in your face in these modes. A lot of skills, especially with some of the other characters, even if they have a little bit of range, their skills will move them in close to you. People like Black Widow and everything are a good example of that with certain builds. So this will, and Captain America as well. So this will help a lot with A, punishing those divers, B, can help create some space for you, and it's also a nice amount of damage that you aren't stuck in one place casting. And that kind of goes into why I picked some of these other spells too, specifically the 7 rings. Because it just takes a second to pop that off and you're getting damage. You're not stuck in a very long character animation, which is something that is very common with some of Doctor Strange's skills, to where it'll either take 2 or 3 seconds for you to go through the whole animation and then actually use the ability, or it'll be an ability that takes a second or 2 to launch, and then you're also like stuck in place while this skill is happening. Like some of the channeling ones, this is a good example. If you're trying to use this spell right here where it creates, and it's specifically the one on this side, and you're, making that portal and blasting away right there, all you have to do is go to the left a little bit and then start beating on you while you're still just blasting in this direction. It's not an auto-tracking skill, and he has a couple of these. So I like to stay away from those when we're doing PvE things, because anything that locks you down and forces you to have to stand still makes you a potential target. So you want fast hitting moves, moves that help your mobility. All of that stuff is going to be very, very big in your play style. You never want to just be standing completely still, letting them wail on you, unless you think you're going to beat them in the DPS race. So yeah, that's about it for the first one. 1v1s. I had a fair amount of success using this build. I won 5 out of my first 5 games in Dimensional Rift, so I was pretty happy with it. So it's nice, but again, a lot of this is focused on, you know, either good single target damage or giving you an advantage in the fight itself. So let's go ahead and take a look at the build that I have set up for starting out in Omega War. So as soon as you are able to do Omega War, I can't remember what level it unlocks, but by that point you should have all of these skills unlocked, and they can be very, very, very strong. So first one up is going to be Master of the Mystic Arts on its second mastery, Circular Shackles. What this one does is, again, kind of like the big purple skill, big area, but it grabs everything and pulls it in, which pairs super, super nicely with using that big purple skill again. So say you didn't even grab and pull everybody in, or someone else flew in after that. Yeah, now everyone is grouped and stunned, and if they're still in there, they get that little bit of damage. But it sets up your second skill so very nicely. Because if you grouped everybody up and then you stun lock them and then you throw chain lightning in there, that's going to be great damage, great crowd control. And the second that you're done casting all those spells, you can just scamper on off, because people are going to be coming for your life. So the fact that you just hit the move once and then you can fly away while it's bouncing between all the other targets and doing damage, that's good. That gives you the advantage in a PvP fight. Another one that I like with this one is the base level of Gateway Summoning. This one is an auto tracking skill, and as soon as you're done firing it and you push it off and it starts going towards its target, again, you start flying around. The thing that I like about this is that it's auto tracking, and it will follow and will hit your target guaranteed. And if there's any other enemies nearby your target, they're also going to get hit by this. So you get a little bit of bonus damage there, but it's really the ease of it being an auto tracking skill, and kind of an alternate. So if you use this skill, group them all together, then you stun lock them all, but your 7 rings are on cooldown, this is a decent substitute. It's not going to do as good of damage, but it'll fill that same slot for you, letting you do damage and be able to get away. After that, we've got the Eye of that, and we've got it on its second ability, or beam, sorry. So the reason that we're specifically using this one instead of perhaps its first level, because its first level will attack several enemies, as many enemies are around it, but it does significantly less damage. So in my opinion, that's why that one kind of just loses out to me personally. So the second one is only going to hit one target, but it's going to do twice the damage of the other skill. And in a PvP fight, say you just went through the other parts of your rotation, just grouped everybody up, stunned a bunch of people, and got to blasting. Maybe a dude over there saw that happening, and now he's coming after you. Okay, pop your eye, and then start trying to get away. And even if he gets on you, he's going to get punished a little bit, just like the spinning blades in our arena build. If they're near you, they're going to pay for trying to push you. That's part of the reason that I put this skill on here. Because again, it has a little bit longer of an animation than the other ones, but once it's cast, you are free to move about. You can fly all around the world, and if anyone's close to you, your little eye buddy up there is going to start shooting them. So I like all of these things. I like that there's a decent little mix of AoE, CC, and damage. You don't have a whole lot of options early game, so I think this is one of the strongest ways you can put spells together, because at that point you're really only going to have up to the second rank of most of your skills. So you're not going to have the ability to run the CC immunity skill, because you don't get that until much later on, so either 50s or 60s, I want to say. So in terms of what you can make use of when you are actually able to start doing Omega Wars, this build should help you out a whole lot. And our third build, this one is a work in progress, okay? Most of this build is assuming that you're on a pretty decent team, or if you're playing with other people, that those people are there to show up and bully things. Like, this is this is kind of the henchman build. Like, you're the dude to the left of the bully laughing at his bad jokes. That's your job here. Nothing in this build is really for doing a lot of damage yourself, or almost any damage yourself, if we're being honest. So first things first is we have the ability that will buff everybody's defense pierce. So this is going to make your team do more damage. This is really great to use after you've seen someone else either do some kind of large-scale CC move, like if there's another Doctor Strange and he uses his big purple thing. That's going to be a great time for you to pop this so that everybody that's there can turn up that little bit more and try to murderize all those people. You know what I mean? It's very important PvP. You want to help your team kill people. After that, showing up in yet another build is going to be this. I think this is his strongest CC ability in the whole game, and it's accessible really early on, so we're kind of big fans of it. But the reason that we went with something like this instead of an aggressive ability is that this is, again, going to help your team out more. This is going to give them the opportunity to go in and get some damage, maybe pop up some moves themselves. Maybe one of them also has a stun, and you guys can try and get some chain stuns in there. It's about creating opportunities for your team, or maybe if your team needs to escape and get out of there, you can hit the enemy team with this so that everybody can back off, regroup for a second before re-engaging with the enemy. So this move is mostly here for creating opportunities. Next one after that, you know what it is. It's our move that's knocking them up, taking away all our debuffs, and then blocking any more debuffs from going on us for 12 seconds. Don't think I need to explain anything here. This is godly for group PvP. Popping this and bringing this to the party as a buffer, you're gonna have a good time, okay? Next one up we have on here is Astral Projection. And the reason that I like using this skill here is because in Omega War, there's gonna be a lot of people around. So you being able to pop up two of these guys and then moving your positioning, you're gonna have a much better time. Like, if you pop these two up and then you move up over here, essentially someone at a quick glance, if you're just auto attacking, is going to think that this guy right here is actually the real version and try and go for them. And there is no killing these guys. If you do a certain amount of damage to them, they just start saying immune, 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 immune. That might change when the game actually launches, but for right now, they're kind of perfect shadow clone jutsus. And the reason that we don't use this in like the 1v1 situation is unless the other person is flying away and their camera is also pointed in the other direction, they ain't gonna lose you. They're still gonna know which one it is. And these don't do enough damage to justify taking up a slot to try and fill like the role of applying pressure if they're diving onto you. You know what I mean? But in a group PvP setting, when you're already there kind of just to support everybody else and not turn up too much yourself, this becomes one of the perfect moves. Because kind of all you have is your auto attack. So you'll have a much easier time blending in with your guys. And that might, help you out. That might help you live a little bit longer in these fights and get more buffs out to your team so that your team can pull out that W. Last one, and I'm pretty sure it's the last one, yeah. Last one on this build is going to be the Book of Vishanti. It's going to be the third mastery of it, Lessons of Wisdom. This one essentially increases you and your allies' skill cooldown. So it means everybody gets their skills faster. If they're already built with any amount of cooldown reduction themselves and you pop this, some people are going to be able to go to town. But that's not really going to be a viable thing till late in the game. So we'll have to see how busted that this can be once you start getting towards some endgame stats and you can stack a bunch of skill cooldown already and then pop this. So far, it doesn't allow for anything meme-y. So if you're thinking like, oh, maybe if I get it high enough, I'll be able to use this so that I can permanently keep up the immunity buff. Maybe if you're at endgame and have like pulled the most godly items for that and cores, but I think it's a higher chance that it's just going to be another one of those things that's adding to the benefit of your team and allowing them to do more and creating more opportunities for them by giving them their skills back faster, and also the obvious benefit of your skills being up a little bit faster, because then you are able to make more opportunities for your team. So it's very useful on all fronts. I need to test this one out a little bit and see how it actually goes in practicality. But I think it's an interesting build, and a game or two of playing around with it went okay, but this one we're putting an asterisk next to, okay? So hopefully you guys enjoyed those. If you want to see any more content, let me know what questions you have. Let me know what stuff you'd like to see me cover. We're working on a Black Widow right now, and after we level her up, I think we're going to go for potentially Spider-Man after that, or maybe Star-Lord. I don't know. I want to check out some of the DPSs that are... I feel like they're being slept on a little bit. I know that Storm is a crazy debuffer. I know that Spider-Man has a bunch of debuffs that he puts on. Trying to figure out what Star-Lord's doing here, what he's bringing to the party. So I think he's my tentative next one to check out after Black Widow. But let me know what you guys are interested in doing. I will do my best to try to get to them as quickly as possible, but it takes a little bit of time. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I really appreciate them faces. I need to find the record button. There we go. All right, y'all. Catch y'all on the next one. Deuces.